Alright, so yeah, we just gonna repeat like no more solitary confinement. 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 Good. All right. I think we just get warmed up with the chants. And we're just waiting for a few more speakers to come and we're going to get started.
Let's get this party started.
No peace.
No justice.
No peace.
What do we want? What do we want?
Solitary.
What do we want?
Solitary.
When do we want it? Now. When do we want it? Now.
All right, we're about to get started.
Hey, is anybody out there from the Scripps News outlet? Scripps News
Right there in the back.
outlet?
Right there.
Where?
Right there.
Right here.
Right there? Okay, I just want to know. Me and Jamel talked yesterday.
Oh,
I
good.
told him I would holler at you.
Oh, good.
Okay, we'll
Perfect.
talk.
Yeah, awesome. I'm
Pick
here.
the pace.
Good.
Confinement.
No more solitary confinement. No more solitary confinement. No more solitary confinement.
No more solitary confinement. No more solitary confinement.
No more solitary confinement. No more.
No more solitary confinement.
No more solitary confinement. No more solitary confinement.
No more
Solitary confinement. No more solitary confinement. Hey, ho ho. Solitary has got to go. 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 Clap it up for yourself. Clap it up. Yes. Solitary has got to go.
When?
Now.
When?
Now.
When?
Now.
When?
Now.
Peace and blessings, everyone. Peace and blessings, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Very good, very good. We are out here today, first of all. I'm Chaplain Dr. Victoria A. Phillips. Everyone calls me Dr. V. Proud member of the Jails Action Coalition and Hold Solitary as well. That's two different coalitions that joined together a few years ago to get this done. Today we are out here with great pleasure to remind our council members that they have a job to do. To remind our elected that the people of New York expect them to show up, save lives, and protect all of those while detained in New York City Department of Corrections. Now, few years ago, almost a decade ago, we came before this very city council demanding that they end solitary. And they gave us, with the help of Councilman Madron, where you at? They gave us solitary to end for 16 to 21-year-olds. Although it didn't truly end, they just renamed it by another name. But we said that wasn't good enough. And we came back, and back again, and back again. And right before he went out of city council, he reintroduced the bill. And they still fell short. But we are here, ending 2023, telling city council, your job is not good enough. You have continued to fail the people of New York since you spoke Akeem Browder's name. You have continued to let us down as you spoke Naileen's name. You continue to let us down as we raised the name of Brandon Rodriguez. Then the next year was Elijah Muhammad. And now, this year, how many more people have died in specialized units? In 2015, the city council voted to end solitary confinement and then allowed DOC to open up ESH, Enhanced Supervision Housing, yet another name for solitary confinement. Over 51% of those in New York City Department of Corrections have a mental health concern. We know from DOC's own mouth that the average length of stay is about 120 days. But we also know from data that those with a mental health concern, average length of stay doubles in DOC time. What are we doing here? And I say all of this because those with mental health concerns are the people who often end up in solitary confinement because DOC is not equipped to deliver treatment while in jail. We are here to demand that City Council pass Intro 549. We are here for every soul, every heartbeat that was lost in barbaric conditions, that was ignored when they needed help, not harm, when they needed love and understanding and empathy, rather than being despised and ignored by the people that were supposed to lead and take care of them. And I'm not going to say too much anymore. I want to bring up someone to kick off this rally who is directly impacted from solitary. Victor Pate, co-director of Hope Solitary Campaign.
Thank you, Dr. V, and thank you everybody for being here. You know, I was thinking last night, I was thinking, well, what am I going to say tomorrow? Here we go again. Oh man, when is this going to end? And it's like things just get going over and over and over in my mind, and it just never ceases to amaze me. As Dr. V pointed out, that we have these legislators and electors that we, the people, put in office to represent our interests. And as she spoke about all of this been going on for all of these years over and over and over again, and what are we doing, and why are people being treated like this, and how do we allow this to continue to happen? How do we keep allowing the people that are supposed to represent us, allow them to keep allowing this to happen? Well, it's going to end today. It's going to end tomorrow. We're going to get this bill passed. We're going to relieve the suffering and the torture of our fellow human beings. I don't want to be too long, but it's something, and it always comes to my mind, and I have said this more than one time, and I'm going to continue to say this here. When we talk about human rights, when we talk about inhumanity, when we talk about how our fellow human beings are supposed to be treated, when we talk about people that are in these prisons and jails and people are being tortured and abused, and you expect them to come out to be better, you expect them to come out to be productive citizens, that does not happen. This is why solitary has to end, mistreatment has to end, the abuse has to end, because you don't expect people to get better by treating them worse. And there are three things that always come to my mind, and I mentioned this, and I'm going to say this again. The UN Mandela Rule, which is a minimum standard for the treatment of people in prison and jail, said that nobody should be tortured. Nobody should be held in long-term isolated confinement. Right. We are in violation of an international law. How does this happen? How does this keep happening? We need to stop. The Universal Declaration of Human Rights say that no one should be treated inhumanely. No one should be inflicted on harm. You should not be putting people in long-term isolated confinement. Our constitutional amendment speaks to this here. So we think about all three of these doctrines upon which the society is supposed to be operating under, and they are violating each and every one of those doctrines. What type of society is this? I say to you, now it's time to change. We must demand change. We must not stand, be quiet, idly by while this continues to happen to our fellow human beings. So I say to you, change is coming. Tomorrow they're going to pass this bill, and we're going to do some wonderful things. Thank you.
Intro. I don't think the media heard you. Intro. 549. Intro. 549. Intro. 549. City Council. Intro. 549. Let Eric Adams know. Intro. 549. Now, I ain't gonna waste time. I want to bring up someone that is dear to me because I've watched her growth in this city. I've watched her from the Health Committee, now lead the Criminal Justice Committee. Councilmember Carlina Rivera, please come on up here.
Want me to use this? All right. How we feel today? I want to thank every single person that is here. There are many people that are not here today that have shown up to every single hearing, every rally for the past almost 15 years, saying that we should end a practice that is recognized by people, by families, by human rights experts as abusive, as horrific, and as torture. I want to recognize my colleagues, and I know that they're going to be able to say something, and they've been here every step of the way, but the council members have never been afraid to speak out on criminal legal reform and the horrific abuse, the deep culture of this mismanagement and dysfunction at Rikers. They have never been afraid to speak out loud of it. And I also want to recognize a pioneer that's here, former council member Danny Drum, who carried this bill, who in his elected official capacity has probably been to Rikers Island to see for himself time and time again what was going on, so he could be able to relay and convey the abuses that he has seen in practice. So we know that for decades, solitary confinement has been used as a disciplinary tool. But we know that it does not work. And I will tell you that the statistics, if you've never heard a family member speak on someone they've lost in solitary, if you've never been to Rikers Island to see for yourself physical facilities decrepit, a mismanagement of the staff and personnel there, I will tell you that people who spend any time in solitary confinement were 24% more likely to die in the first year after their release from prison than those who have been incarcerated but not placed in solitary confinement. 78% more likely to die from suicide, and 127% more likely to die of an opioid overdose in the first 2 weeks after release. That's from the Vera Institute. According to Cornell, solitary confinement increased the probability of being convicted of another crime within 3 years after release by about 15 to 20%. This is not working. This is not rehabilitation. It is not restorative centered approach. It is not holistic. This is not how we view and how we should be implementing public safety. So we are here because we are telling our colleagues, we have 38 co-sponsors on this bill. That is a majority. But we have to make sure that people show up and they speak up and say it is finally time to end solitary confinement here in New York City. So I just want to thank the advocates once again. You all have guided us. Last year we held a hearing on this for 7 hours. 7 hours in City Hall listening to families speak up and turn their pain into action, turn that passion into results. And we'll see that tomorrow. Thank you, everyone.
Hey, hey, ho, ho, solitary has got to go. Hey, hey, ho, ho, solitary has got to go. Hey, hey, ho, ho, solitary has got to go. Hey, hey, ho, ho, solitary has got to go.
Now, many of you might know her, and we're going to get to the man of the hour. We're going to get to you, Councilman. We're going to get But you might have heard her. Where's you, Candy? Come on. I want you to hear from her again. Because I want you to hear directly from Candy, a.k.a. the solitary survivor, a member of the Jails Action Coalition who's been with us for years pushing for this bill. And I'm highlighting Candy because we all have our pain, right? And so it's equal when it comes to how we deal and love on each other. But I want to highlight Candy in this moment and highlight her truth, because when no one was comfortable speaking about how women are held in detainment, Candy stepped forward. When no one was okay with putting their own truth out on the front line, Candy stepped forward. When all of us cringe as we think of not having access to pads, something we need as human beings, Candy stepped forward. And that's not easy. It's easy to step out of jail and try to go on and heal yourself and move on with your life, more than it will ever be to put yourself on the front line, speak of your own demons and horrors and truth, and fight for other people to not go through what you have been through. Candy, please talk to the people.
Hello, everyone. Free our brothers. Free our sisters. Free our brothers. Free our sisters. My name is Candy, aka Solitary Survivor. I use the alias Solitary Survivor because I spent 1,168 days on Rikers Island. Yes, Rikers Island. And out of those 1,168 days, I spent 1,122 in solitary confinement. I was in and out of the hospital trying to commit suicide on many of occasions, so 1,122 is an estimate. I was physically, sexually, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and religiously abused in solitary confinement. People say, ask, but you're free. Yes, I'm free, but the nightmares never go away. I used to try to commit suicide just to end the torture. The officers would say, hurry up, get it over with. Oh, we have 8 hours till the body gets cold. They would say, ask, you ain't dead yet? I remember when I swallowed pills that I saved in front of an SPA. Does everyone know what an SPA is? Raise your hand if you don't know what an SPA is. Just let me explain it for a second. An SPA is a suicide prevention aid, an incarcerated individual that gets paid to go to each incarcerated person's cell to make sure they are feeling okay. The SPA's job is to help people that are incarcerated not want to commit suicide. But if they can't help, they must inform the officers. And SPA watched me take pills, notified the officers, then she was fired. They fired the suicide prevention aide for her doing her job. I tried to commit suicide, and honestly, I'll try it again. However, every time I tried, God doesn't allow me to die. Pardon me, I try not to mix religion with politics. But after going what I've gone through, I have to believe that there's a God. God really doesn't want me dead. Nah, not yet. I presume all the times I attempted to commit suicide were not my times to go. I tried hanging myself in cells by standing on buckets. I assumed God didn't want me to, quote, kick the bucket, unquote. No, it was not my time to go. God decides when we go. God decides where, how we go. It's not our choice. God put us here and will take our souls when ready. I'm here for a reason. I survived for a reason. God put me in solitary confinement so I can tell it all. To tell everything that I've been through, what I've seen others go through, what people today, right now, are enduring. The city needs to do the right thing by passing Intro 549. Doing that will save so many lives, so many souls. I've begged, prayed God to just end my life. I've asked God to let me fall asleep and never wake up. For God knows my pain, has seen what I've gone through, heard my screams. I feel like if God loves me, why would he want me to keep reliving these nightmares? That's because it's not about me. It's about everyone. God reminds me of what I've gone through, so I remember to always help our incarcerated loved ones and their families. To get Intro 549 passed today. If I had to suffer to save other people's lives, then that's fine by me. I'm the voice of our incarcerated loved ones and the voice of our deceased loved ones. I'm the voice of the Lord. The Lord said it's time to shut Rikers down and it's time to end solitary confinement worldwide. Just like the Lord told Moses what to do, let my people go. Thank you.
Intro?
549.
I don't believe y'all. Intro?
549.
Now, I just want to take a quick moment to ask anybody else who comes for the rally to come join us. We're a family. We're a community. We're taking a moment for you to walk on up and join us. I see your signs in the crowd. Come on up and join us. There's 5 boroughs in this city, and all 5 are detained in New York City Department of Corrections. Come on home. Come on to your family. Come on. All right now, people. Intro?
549.
Intro?
549.
Intro?
549.
Now, I'm saying that because I want all y'all to hit y'all council members up when y'all leave here today and tell them to support this man's bill. Public Advocate Jamani Williams, come on up here. We thank you for bringing this bill back. We thank you for even, I'm going to stand before everybody and say I doubt you. To get it this far. I thought you was going to crumble on us and be a flake at one point in time. I give credit where due. Y'all all know who I am and how I am. And so I'm standing here before the people to say I was part of the group that stayed every week on your team. And I thank you for making sure we have this day tomorrow.
Thank you.
Peace and blessings, love and light to everybody. Thank you for the words, even the bad ones.
No bad ones.
First, I appreciate the credit, but I want to make sure, and I'm sure if we shout it out, we shout out Councilmember Danny Drum. This bill was the council member's bill before me, and he left the council, and I was second on it, so I got it. But thank you for so much work that you've done previous to this. We don't get here without your work, so thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Thank you to our Chair Rivera, who's been a huge supporter of co-prime and helping to get through the committee. And in abstention, I want to shout out our Speaker Adams, for really having the courage and the wherewithal and the leadership. Thank you so much. And our council member, all the council members here, thank you so much, council member, for your work and getting it done. And, all our council members, I don't miss somebody. So. Most of all, thank you to the families who have turned pain into purpose, and all the folks who dealt with it, and the advocates. We wouldn't be here without you. The UN has designated solitary confinement as torture, but across the river, solitary confinement is still happening on Rikers Island. People say that there's no solitary on Rikers Island, a place where pain is policy. I invite them to the people here who have been through the pain, to say to the people right now who are suffering in isolation on Rikers, we don't believe solitary is ended. We believe the names were changed in hopes that people wouldn't notice or people wouldn't care. We actually care, and we're bringing the voices of people who have endured the torture out of isolation. There's a great deal of misinformation and misunderstanding about solitary in New York City, but the reality is, no matter what terminology you use, people are facing the cruel and unusual punishment of isolation and carrying the damage of the treatment for the rest of their lives. People in solitary are denied human contact and connection, denied support, and come out of these deplorable conditions worse than when they went in. And some, like Brandon Rodriguez and Adrienne Polanco, don't come out at all. By no definition is this correction. It's just convenient cruelty. Committing an infraction in jail can cause you to lose privileges, but it should not cause you basic human rights. This should not be radical, and it's based on the standards already set through oversight. The DOC has historically shirked oversight and accountability, creating loopholes that allow them to continue abusive practices like harmful isolation. Without clear enforceable guidelines for what DOC can and cannot do to people in their custody, they will continue to create and exploit loopholes to maintain solitary and isolation by other names. We can de-escalate conflict to provide programs and resources to prevent harm, or we can perpetuate it by inflicting irreparable harm to our fellow New Yorkers' mental health. We can have the due process our legal system was founded on, or we can deny it. I want to stop now again and thanking all the advocates, the people who felt the effects of solitary and their families for helping us move the bill over the last long years. I want to thank all of the elected officials and labor leaders who have helped us get to this point of a vote. Shout out to 1199 who just signed on to both of my bills. This bill is better because of the people in the movement who worked on it. It creates a process to separate, to de-escalate, but not to isolate. It does not prevent someone from being removed from a situation where they are dangerous to themselves or others. Instead, it makes clear the process for doing so and the minimum standards of humanity that system must follow. People watching at home may be hearing that for the first time because there has been an aggressive misinformation campaign against the bill by people trying to uphold the status quo. But we can't accept the status quo. Under the status quo, dozens of people have died on Rikers in the last few years, thousands of people sitting in deplorable conditions, simply awaiting trial, and many of those thousands are singled out in isolation, put through torture. Rikers Island is in crisis in part because it's considered out of sight and out of mind. Solitary is even more removed, as our city tries to hide away a practice it's not proud of, yet is trying to preserve. But we have to acknowledge the existence of that practice and the harm it inflicts, and the need to end in reality, not just in name. I'm focused on passing the bill we have, not fighting about the one that opponents have fabricated. I'm focused on ending torture in a city that calls itself progressive. Solitary is inhumane. Isolation is inhumane. It makes our jails less safe, and it makes our city less safe. The opponents of banning solitary are trying to uphold the status quo of crisis and inhumanity, and we cannot allow that in our city. The time is now to finally, truly end this torture in our city. For the survivors who are here today, like Candy and Victor, for the people who tragically harmed, like Brandon Rodriguez, Adrienne Polanco, and Kalief Browder, and his mom. For the one, I think I pressed some last.
For the 117 we know about. For the 117 we know about being subjected to solitary now. For the many, many more who won't have to because of the work of all of us. In solitary, people crowd and isolated voices. But today we're using one loud, unified voice to say solitary has no place in our city. I also want to make sure I'm lifting up the people that work there, all of the people who work there, including our corrections officers. And even though they're in opposition, they are right to bring up the violence that is occurring, not just to detainees, but to corrections officers, the sexual assaults, the assaults. The numbers they put out are true. But what I say to them, that is happening now with the use of solitary and with the use of punitive segregation. That means it's not working. That violence isn't occurring because of this bill. We believe it is occurring because this bill hasn't been in effect. The things that you are doing are causing harm to everybody on that island who work there, who are detained there, on both sides of that bar. And we want everybody on both sides of those bars to be safe and to come home how they went in. That's not what's happening. And so what we want to do is pass a bill that allows you to separate people when needed and provide the services and programs that we have to, but not isolate them. Because we know that isolation causes physical and mental harm that goes on years after for life. We also know that it causes people 2 times more to be rearrested when they're released. That makes it not safe for anyone in Rikers or when they come home and the community. So please, I agree with your numbers. I agree with the lack of safety.
But that is what's happening now. Join us in saying if we want something different, we have to do something different. And that's what this bill is about. Thank you so much.
Intro. Now, before I bring up the man of the hour, let me just make something very clear. Having worked behind the walls, Rikers Island facilities, and the boat for many, many years in many, many positions, I want to highlight the fact that you can hear officers, and they come from my community as well. So when I go and I talk about public safety behind the walls, I'm talking about on both sides. But here's one thing that I always remind the officers of. They have a union. They have reps. They have free will, and they can ride across that bridge every day and go fight for themselves. When we talk about those detained in New York City Department of Corrections, they have no will. They're at the mercy of whoever is on tour. And we know for a fact that officers were seen on camera laughing at Layleen Polanco. So we will not hide the fact that there is barbaric torture being done on a daily basis in Rikers Island and any other DOC facility. And we say the time is now for it to stop. We say no more excuses. We say we will not bite our tongue because we have a feeling that we want to take care of and not offend. We are not here to care about your feelings. We are here to protect lives. We are here to say you have to follow minimum standards and do your job. And we will make sure your job is able to be done effectively. But you will not violate human rights, civil rights, or do anything wrong on our time. And so I want to bring up right now, I'm so happy that we are finally circling back around to you. A decade ago, this man came forward to do what his peers wouldn't, to say what his peers couldn't, to talk about our people. And when I say our, I'm talking about black and brown community. Former council member, I call you Danny Drum, but I think it's Danny Drum, right? Danny Drum. Former council member Danny Drum. You want to
When I say and, you say solitary and. Solitary. Solitary. When I say and, you say solitary and. Solitary. Solitary.
And I just want to give you your flowers because you have stood with us, you fought for us, you kept your word. Same thing I was saying with Public Advocate. You promised something and you kept your word. And even though you couldn't completely fulfill it, they only gave us 16, 21-year-olds in 2015. You still fought and fought. And to put that bill back 5 years later, 2020 was 5 years later, to bring it back, that shows your dedication. And even though you left council with them not pushing it through, you still are here with the people. That is part of his character. That is part of his dedication. That is a man. You are nothing if you can't stand on your word. Councilmember Jimmy Johnson.
Wow, I hope I can live up to all your really, really, really kind words, Dr. V. You have also been an undying supporter of closing Rikers, of ending solitary, of all the criminal justice reforms that we as a group here have stood for many, many, many years. So thank you for your advocacy as well. And you are very right to say that this bill, this legislation is meant to improve conditions for everybody, whether you are incarcerated on Rikers Island or whether you work on Rikers Island, because we all know that solitary confinement makes people's emotional stability worse when you have to spend 23, and by the way, it's really almost 24, because oftentimes the hour they offer people out of cell time is 1 hour at 4 or 5 or 6 in the morning. And who's going to get up at that time to go out into the cold or to do whatever it is? Nobody's going to do it. So they oftentimes even miss their 1 hour out of cell time. So this is about the torture that has occurred on Rikers Island for decades and decades. It is torture. It is said to be torture by the United Nations has declared solitary confinement to be torture. You know, I also want to thank Carlina Rivera, who is here, for having the guts to stick by and be at and attend hearings that we had, and also to challenge the powers that be to make sure that this legislation gets passed in the City Council. I want to thank Public Advocate Jumaane Williams for also standing up Jamani and I and others started the Progressive Caucus, and this was one of the goals of the Progressive Caucus many, many years ago. Jamani worked hard on stop and frisk, got that law passed, although we see that rising now too. We see those stops rising now too. Okay, but we have worked so hard on these issues together. Councilmember Tiffany Caban, who really has championed this issue as well. Councilmember Marte, who was here, thank you very much. And I saw Councilmember Chiose, who was here. I think he might have had to leave. Thank you to Jails Action Coalition, to everybody also. And I could go on and on, but I just want to say this as well. For 14 years ago, I got elected to the City Council. And I asked David Rothenberg, who was the founder of the Fortune Society, what could be done about criminal justice? What's the most important thing? And he said, if you really want to reform the criminal justice system, get rid of solitary confinement. And Dr. D is right. There used to be something called time owed. Remember time owed, okay? When you had done your time, but you left, you came back, you had time left, you had to go back into solitary confinement. We got rid of that. We got rid of solitary confinement for the young people. But now it is time to pass this legislation so that we are ensuring people that this torture will never again occur on Rikers Island or any criminal justice facility in the city of New York. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. And now I want to put her on the spot. Who do you call when you have issues on Rikers Island? The council member in charge of it. Come on, Councilmember Tiffany Caban. And I just want to say, and I'll be very quick, I want to give you your flowers too. Because when she first ran for city council, I was leery of her. And you know, rightfully so. But what I will say is, you have stuck to your guns and you have fought for the people. And even though we might not always agree on how things are done, you are dedicated, and we thank you.
Thank you. So, it's almost deja vu, I think, for all of us, because we have been out here, I can't even count the number of times. And usually, my name is Tiffany Caban, by the way. Usually, I walk up into this space, probably like a lot of y'all, being like, well, damn, what am I going to say this time that I didn't say last time? And I walked up into this space and I felt a little bit of a relief. It'll be momentary because we have more fights to have. But I knew that I wasn't going to step up here with the usual warranted righteous rage. But that I wanted to step up here and release that for a moment and just share gratitude. Gratitude. Thank you to each and every one of you for showing up each and every day, for your advocacy, for reliving and putting your trauma on the line over and over again for other people, for people you don't know, for people you know, people you don't know. I spent almost a decade as a public defender, and while I will never know the experience of having a direct loved one die in solitary, I know what it is to experience the transformation of individuals as they are incarcerated in solitary. I know what it means to be in relationship with folks who have survived solitary, and that, yes, the ultimate harm is death, but you cannot quantify the amount of trauma and the impact of having to live through solitary. And we all have those names and faces, and I think it's something that I have been reading lately is like practices in grief, because what we do here together is we grieve. We grieve loved ones, we grieve neighbors, we grieve New Yorkers. But grief is a practice of gratitude. Grief doesn't exist without love. You have to love to be able to grieve. And that is what gives me hope when we have these fights, that y'all love so hard that it doesn't matter that it took a decade, that we are here today and we're gonna get it done. And so my commitment to you is to make sure that we keep our colleagues right, and if the mayor dares to veto this legislation, that we override it with love and solidarity. And we are not afraid. And the last thing that I want to end on, again, because you're not coming with the righteous rage today, at least not for me, is that I know, at least in my work, and I see some of my former colleagues here, some of the faces of the people we represent never leave your memory. And when solitary is at the forefront, I've had many, many clients who have survived solitary, but I think of one who I want to honor. A 17-year-old boy, Latino, queer, beautiful, talented dancer. Before being thrown on Rikers Island, he had gotten accepted to an Alvin Ailey sort of student scholarship thing. He was that talented. Had lost his parents to substance use disorder, struggled with substance use himself at 17. And that's how he found himself on Rikers. He was thrown into solitary. He was sexually assaulted in solitary. He was never the same young, bright boy. We had to watch that transformation. His grandparents had to watch that transformation. And so I am hoping that with tomorrow's vote, we never have to watch that kind of transformation again, and know that it is step one. We are going to ban solitary confinement tomorrow, and then we're going to make sure that we close Rikers Island for good. That is the next fight. So thank y'all so much. I love and appreciate you, Councilmember Brown. Thank you for all that you have done. Peace and solidarity, y'all.
Hey, hey, ho, ho, solitary has got to go. Hey, hey, ho, ho, solitary has got to go. Hey, hey, ho, ho, solitary has got to go. Hey, hey, ho, ho, solitary has got to go.
Now I want to introduce you to somebody. Can y'all hear me? Yeah. Y'all still with us? Yeah. All right, intro.
549.
I don't hear you over there. Intro.
549.
Intro.
549.
What do we want? Intro.
549.
Intro.
549.
Y'all still with us? Yeah. Okay, I'm gonna do this one more time. If you came to the rally, come join us. If you're standing in the back, don't look around. If you're standing in the back, but you're supposed to be with us, come up and join us. This is your time. Come on. You're not the only one, but come on. Feel free to join us. Come on, you family. All right, it's the community. Intro. 549. Now I want to bring up another council member. Another person that came to the office, wasn't too sure about. However, he shows up where I don't even expect him. Like the women's breakfast in the city. Whatever it takes to be connected to his constituents is what I'm learning he's about. Councilmember Krishna, come on up.
Well, good morning, everyone. It's so nice to see you all here for a moment that could not come soon enough. I'm Councilmember Shaker Krishna, representing Jackson Heights and Elmhurst, Queens, and I'm so fired up to be here today because of all the work that each and every one of you have done across the city, telling such tragic but necessary stories of the torture, the inhumanity, and barbarity at Rikers Island. Never letting up in the fight to make sure that we ended solitary confinement. And so while our heart is heavy that we even have to be here today, to stand here, to continue demanding that solitary confinement ends in New York City, we are also fired up that tomorrow we will finally get it done. That's right. A testament to each of you here. Now, let us be very clear about this. As I've said before many times, Rikers Island is the biggest stain on the conscience of our city. It is a humanitarian crisis. It has reached the point where, as many of us have said too, the need for federal receivership is clear. The need for Rikers Island to close is clear. But as a very first step, a step that we should have taken years ago, solitary confinement must end in New York City. Solitary confinement is torture. Solitary confinement is no way to treat human beings in our city, in our society. And that is why we are finally proud that its passage will happen. Because how we treat every single human being in our city, in our society, is a reflection of who we are. It is a reflection of our government. It is a reflection of whether or not we believe in ideas like civil rights, racial justice, like rehabilitation. Solitary confinement is none of those things. It is a barbaric practice that so many across the country have already called attention to. So it is finally about time that we end it in this city. Now, to everyone in the Halt Solitary movement, to the Jails Action Coalition, to those who have lost family members because of solitary confinement, who themselves have witnessed solitary confinement, know that in this city council, you have fighters who are humbled and fired up to stand by your side till we get this done and till we move to a world that we can truly believe in. To our public advocate of New York City, Jumaane Williams, to the chair of our Criminal Justice Committee, my colleague, Carolina Rivera, all our colleagues, and of course, I see a good friend here who originally carried the solitary bill to end solitary confinement, former council member Danny Drum, and my predecessor in Jackson Heights, Congress Queens. I'm so honored that you're here today too. Thank you for your work, because with all your work, with all the groups here, it has paved the way for what we are about to achieve tomorrow. So look, in conclusion, the fight is long. The fight continues every day till we close Rikers Island. Till we make sure the stain on our conscience morally is removed. But at the very least, tomorrow we take a step forward to recognize the truth that we have known, but it has taken years for our government to finally admit. Solitary confinement is torture, and it must end now! End it 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 now! Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you so much. And I know y'all tired. I'm gonna keep it going, right? So, Councilmember Morte, yeah, come on up here. We trying to acknowledge everybody, and you know, I just want to appreciate. I want to say that you stood over here, and I wasn't even sure if you was going to speak today. So you should not have stood as long as you stood. But we appreciate you for still standing here with us. Come on.
Hi everyone, my name is Councilmember Christopher Marte, representing Lower Manhattan, and I really from the bottom of my heart say thank you to everyone here. My brother was in solitary confinement, and what I realized when he came out is that it wasn't just a moment in time, it was a state of mind. Living with him for 3 years right after that, as he slept on my couch, I'll hear nightmares, I'll hear screams, I'll hear him sometimes not being able to go to sleep. That's the trauma that many of our black and brown brothers go through every single day coming out of Rikers Island. And this is what we have to deal with, and this is what we have to fight for, a world without solitary confinement. And so I really want to thank everyone here. And I don't know if this person got a shout out or not, but I really want to thank Rosie Mendez from the Public Advocate's Office, because she was a fighter as a council member, and she was the one when council members was hearing from the other side of City Hall to not do this or hop off that or come to a Disneyland tour of Rikers Island. She was the one calling them and saying, these are the facts. And this is where you should stand. So thank you, Rosie, thank you, Danny, for continuing the fight after they left the council. And I want to leave you with this. We know that this fight is not over. I've been a council member for the past 2 years, and seeing all the treasures that comes out of nowhere so you won't take a stand from this administration is only going to get worse. When we pass this tomorrow, there is a timeline of when he's going to veto, and we got to make sure that our council members, as a block, stand together. No matter whether you're progressive, no matter if you're conservative, we need to show the numbers, and we need to stand strong. Because if they're allowed to veto this, they're going to take everything else. And so you have a commitment from me, I'm sure from my colleagues right here, Councilmember Rivera who just left, that we're going to fight, we're going to continue to organize, and we're going to make sure that every single council member stands with you and stands with everyone who passed away. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for that intro. Intro. Intro.
549.
You know, you always doing the little songs off on the side. She said, together we stand. Intro.
549.
Long as y'all remember that. Stand on that, all right? I want to bring up somebody that does the work, yo. This is a brother that, you know, is not in an easy position. He's an attorney. That should tell you something right there, right? But he's not just an attorney. He's an attorney that works for the people. He's an attorney that goes where most people don't want to go. He's an attorney that will show up on days that you'll probably lay in the bed because the weather made you feel like you don't want to do anything. But he's also an attorney that remembers that he has a job to do and a duty as an American citizen on domestic soil. And so he goes into places that are quite barbaric, and he'll sit for extended periods of time just to see one client. And I'm going to let him come tell you the other parts of his truth, but I just want to give him his flowers, because so often we do this work and nobody acknowledges any bit of it. Comrade Blackburn from the Bronx Defenders, come on up. I am proud to stand with you. I'm super excited every time I see your face log on to a Zoom or you show up at a rally. People are not aware of the work that you do behind the scenes. But I'm here today to give you your flowers and to tell you thank you. Thank you for pushing your own peers to do more of what they want to do, but don't sometimes have the energy or the will to get it done. And I just want to say the people thank you, your clients thank you, and most importantly, their loved ones who you're fighting to get them back to appreciate you and thank you.
Thank you, Dr. B. Good morning, everyone. I said good morning, everyone. As Dr. B said, my name is Conrad Blackburn. I'm a criminal defense attorney, and I'm a policy counsel with the Bronx Defenders. Today, I'm here with my colleagues and the coalition members to urge the City Council to pass Intro 549, which would ban the DOC's, Department of Corrections, use of solitary confinement in New York City jails. Every day, DOC puts on a straight face and they lie to the public, they lie to the media, and quite frankly, they lie to themselves. And they say that they've ended their practice of solitary confinement. And they've ended the practice of using solitary confinement against our incarcerated brothers and sisters. But make no mistake, as you've heard today countless times, they have not ended their practice. They still, every day, use solitary confinement, regardless of whatever name they want to put on it. And as Dr. B said, I am an attorney. I am a criminal defense attorney, which means I do go to Rikers and I do speak to my clients about the things that they endure, right? So I've heard firsthand accounts from people in custody, the horrors that they have to go through. And I just want to talk to everyone a little bit about some of what my clients are telling me. And I want y'all to bear with me here because the DOC does a lot of bad things to our clients. Now, we have clients in the Robert N. Devoring Complex, RNDC, on Rikers Island. And they express that they have routinely been placed on restrictive lockdowns throughout September, October, and November. One of the worst ones lasted 10 days. From October 7th to October 17th. During this lockdown, our clients shared that they had no access to showers, no access to recreation, no access to programming, and their meals came very infrequently. During this lockdown, there was one client in particular who said for 8 days straight, from August 8th to August 16th, he was locked in his cell for 24 hours each day. 24 hours each day. He wasn't even allowed to leave his cell to shower. In fact, he didn't get his first shower until August 22nd. And for 5 days during that span, he didn't have regular access to meals. He would beg the corrections officers for food, only to then be forgotten about. And guess what? He never even received an explanation for why he was on lockdown. The only message he received from the guards were that they were told that they were to keep him locked in his cell for his own safety. But they never told him what he needed to be protected from. He was seemingly being punished for something he had no knowledge of. That ain't right.
That ain't right.
There was another client who was housed at the Enhanced Supervised Housing, now called RESH, the RESH facility. He shared that he was placed on lockdown for a fight that he wasn't even involved in. DLC classified him improperly anyway and designated him as an individual who was to be locked down. During his 5-day lockdown, he was given 1 meal per day. Only 1 meal per day. And he had 0 showers. 0 showers. That ain't right.
That ain't right.
At the George R. Vierno Center, or GRVC as it's called, officers routinely use solitary confinement practices to deal with, or not deal with, people in custody who are living with mental health complications. These are the people that are on the mental observation units and the alternative to punishment units, which they call CAPS. This is the most vulnerable population on the island because they rely on what little care DOC and the staffers can give them. And they're frequently locked into their cells for days at a time with no access to showers, recreation, programming, medication, psychiatric services, visits with loved ones, or even counsel visits. DLC just locks them in a cell and leaves them to decompensate. That's not right. And we know that in dorms 3A and 3B in the North Infirmary Command and in the West Facility, DLC classifies these dorms as general population, but in reality, they lock individuals in their cell all day. There's no due process for placement in those units, and it's impossible for people to advocate for a transfer out. Now, these are just a few of the stories that were told by people who are able to tell them. There are some people who are no longer with us who aren't able to tell their stories.